I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar. I am your host and virtual voice coach, Darcy D. And today we have a very special guest. He is a Grammy-nominated music educator, songwriter, author, and producer. His artist development company, Artist Accelerator, has launched the careers of dozens of artists. He is a professor of songwriting at Berklee College of Music, where he has been creating curriculum and teaching since 2002. He also teaches at the Interlochen Center for Performing Arts and the Country Music Hall of Fame's Taylor Swift Education Center, and he leads songwriting workshops worldwide. He is the author of a book, The Singer-Songwriter's Guide to Recording in the Home Studio, which segues beautifully into today's topic. Please help me in welcoming my co-host for this session, Shane Adams.
So, setting a recording in your home studio, what does that mean? I'm going to open up a little Word document. I'm going to go. Can you guys all see my screen?
Sure can.
All right. So, this is not a fancy way to describe this. It is a way to describe it. So, all right. So you say you want to sing. Let's put here. I want to be heard, and I'll tell you what. Let's just go ahead and make that big. All right. So I want to be heard, which is your actual recording. Now, whether that's an MP3 or whether that's on Spotify or whether that's a WAV file or whether that is an 8-track tape for some of you people that have snow on the roof like I do. So this is your ultimate goal, and the ultimate goal audio wise, and let's take the creativity and the beauty of your writing and songwriting and singing out of it, and let's only talk about the dryness of an audio recording. The idea is to have the highest quality of sound, the most sound that you can fit into whatever type of recording delivery device is available. So I have here a cup or a glass of water, and notice that this glass of water is only it's half full, roughly half full. And audio wise, what that means is if I was to play back this glass, you would only hear it at about 55% of the volume. That's what the recording is. Whereas if I filled it up to the top, you're going to hear 100% of that audio. That means in order for you, if I had two glasses, one completely full and one half full, in order for me to hear this at the same volume as the full glass, I would have to turn this up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And the problem with this half full glass, I guess I'm an optimist because I keep saying half full, thank goodness, is this, what's left, this air is noise. It's and I know you guys have all done this. Have you ever turned up a TV that's on a non-channel? And what happens when you turn up a TV and you get that sound, right? And so you turn it down. And if you've noticed, I don't know if you have this effect. Sometimes commercials are super loud on a TV show, and then it goes back to the regular programming. It's because the programming is actually compressed to a certain amount, and the commercials people have learned how to let the audience hear the entire glass of water. And so what we want to do is we want to maximize the water, the full cup of water from the recording process all the way to the end of the process when you create the recording. In other words, when you record a vocal, you're filling the glass all the way. because you're singing into the mic. That's all of your sound. But now it goes into another device, and that device drains the glass a little bit onto the track. And then it goes through your mixer, and that drains the glass a little bit more. And then it goes through a compressor, and that drains the glass a little bit more. Then you put EQ on it, that drains the glass. So everything you add to an audio signal, every time you add a processing, it's taking away part of that sound. And so at the end of the process, you have to turn it. You have to turn it back up. Okay. So we want to create what's called gain staging, and a gain staging in the process, meaning every time we add an element, we want to be able to maximize the amount of water in our glass. So what happens, and you guys have done this if you've sung into a microphone, into a mixer. What does the mixer do? He has your volume control, and what do? They turn the volume control to where it sounds good in the system, right? Well, when you're recording, you have what's called, all right, so we'll say you're recording into your mic, and that microphone is going into some kind of audio interface. And it actually might be, that audio interface might be a USB mic, which some of you have. And so the mic and the audio interface is the exact same thing. But there's a mic component, and then it becomes an audio interface. And then from the audio interface, it goes into your computer. And then the computer processes it. And then it goes from your computer back to your audio interface. And then it goes into your speakers or your headphones. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I think it does. And if anyone has any questions while Shane's talking, just put them in the chat.
Yeah. Now, let's all right. So let's move this kind of down here. And let's move this here. All right. So it goes from the mic to the audio interface, and then into the computer, and then in your computer, in your DAW, and DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation, and this is Logic or Pro Tools or Ableton or Cubase or Reaper, or what's called band. What's on the Mac? I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, you mean the standard one that comes with the Mac?
Yeah.
GarageBand.
Yeah, GarageBand. All right, so those are all ways to record into your computer, and then we're just going to call those DAWs, your digital audio workstation, and then then you put your mic on it goes into the DAW, and then in the DAW you assign it a track, and then on that track you might add EQ, you might add compression, and we'll talk about those today. Compression, you might add reverb, and there's actually there could possibly be multiple tracks, right? You might have a vocal track, you might have a guitar track, you might have a drum track, and then all of those are mixed together into what's called a mix bus, sometimes called your main output. Now, I actually love the term bus, and And if we eliminate the word track and we call it a bus, so what does a bus do? If you live in a city and you need to go to a certain location in your city, what do? You hop on a bus, or if you have a car, right? If no cars exist, and all of those buses go to different different stations or different pickup points. So if you think of this Vox track, we're sending it on a Vox bus, to end up in the main output, or the main output, or sometimes called the main bus, the mix bus. But that's what that means. And what we're doing is we're combining all of these passengers and putting them on a gigantic bus, and that bus goes back to your audio interface and into your speakers and headphones, or it goes into a recording that's played back by your listeners. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yes.
All right. Let's pretend that when you do a recording, let's concentrate on these 3 buses or these 3 tracks. And let's pretend that every recording ever made or will be made will only have 3 tracks. They will have a Vox track, a vocal track, a guitar track, and a drum. There's no such thing as keyboards. There's no such thing as banjos. There's no such thing as bagpipes. There's only these 3 things. The problem is if you're singing, which instrument is the loudest of these 3? Anybody?
Drums.
The drums, right? So when you record the drums, if I record the drums at the same level that I record the vocals, which are going to be louder?
The drums.
The drums, right? You can't. So what do you have to do in a mix to be able to hear the vocal tracks?
Turn the drums down.
Turn the drums down, right? And in fact, if you have a narcissistic guitar player with an amp, it usually goes in the reverse order. The drums are the loudest, then that narcissistic guitar player, he's playing super loud, and then in third place is the vocalist. Well, what happens? So you have to turn the drums way down, you have to turn the guitar kind of down, and actually you probably have to turn the vocals up when you create a mix, right?
Yeah.
Now this is a problem because you want to record all of your tracks as loud as possible. You want to get as much signal onto the track as possible. But all things being equal, the maximum voice is softer than the maximum drum. Does that make sense?
Sonically, yes.
Sonically, yes. And then let's say we allow the flute player to come in.
Good luck.
And the flute player is just blowing their lungs out into the flute. The maximum volume you can get out of the flute is still less than the maximum volume of the drums. So the idea is to record everything as loud as possible before they distort, and then in the mix process bring everything down to where you can hear them, or to where it makes sense. The lead vocal, usually the most important part, and then the drums and the guitar, and somewhere in there is the flute player, right? And really the things are mixed to taste.
Right.
The final mix is all about I want it to sound good according to how I feel a mix should sound.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Shane, so
Yes, sir.
Chad has asked a really good question. So as we're recording into our DAWs, is there a good dB level that we aim for with the raw audio?
Aha. Fantastic question, Chad. Thank you. I was just going to get to that. All right. So typically on every audio interface, they have what's called a red light. Right? And now if you're lucky, you have a red light and you have a green light. And if you are super lucky, you have you have a green light that becomes a yellow light that then becomes a red light. And Chad, actually, I'll get to the DB question in a second. Now, what the red light is, in common speak, red light equals distortion. So on your audio interface, let's go back to our audio interface. Actually, this is occurring before the computer. Let's pretend that there are no drums in the world, there are no flutes, and there are no drums. The only thing you will ever record is your voice. So you've hooked up your mic to your audio interface, and your audio interface has two controls on it. You have what's called a gain knob, and you have what's called a volume knob, or they could be sliders. Mm-hmm. All right. So the volume knob controls the output. So it actually goes here. The volume knob goes to your speakers and headphones. What you're concerned with is your gain knob. And what happens is most people, they turn up the volume knob first, and then they adjust their gain. And now sometimes instead of being called gain, it might say mic. It might say mic 1 or mic 2, mic 3. It might say mic instrument 1 and 2. Most audio interfaces have a mic 1 and mic 2, or instrument 1 and 2. Some have 4. Some audio interfaces have 24. It depends on what you're using. All right, but let's say we're using an audio interface that only has one input, and it says mic 1. Well, really that's a gain knob, because what it means is the signal going to your microphone is not loud enough to get into your audio interface. So what happens is you turn up that gain knob, and if you have a very basic audio interface, you turn it up until you see the red light. And what the red light means is you can actually do this without the volume knob. You can actually turn your speakers all the way off and turn your gain and only do it by that red light. And that's actually what I suggest at first. So you're singing into your microphone, la 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 la, and you want to sing the loudest part of whatever your song is, la 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 la, until that red light comes on. And then once that red light goes on, you back off the gain until you can sing the loudest part of your performance without that red light coming on. Now what happens is most audio interfaces also have a green light. So when you sing la 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 la, it's green, 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 green. So you turn up the gain, la 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 la, green, 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 green. You turn up the gain a little bit more, la 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 la. Now it's louder, and the yellow light comes on. La 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 la, yellow, yellow, yellow. So you turn it up a little bit more, la 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 la. It's still yellow, but you're pushing the yellow. La la. You turn it up a little bit more, la 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 la. Red, 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 red. Oh, now I'm with the red. I have introduced distortion, so I back off that gain to where whenever I'm singing, because remember we only record vocals. There's no such thing as any other instrument. That it's mostly in that green, and it's okay if it goes into the yellow, but we don't want it into the red. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And what we've done that yellow means we filled up our glass all the way to the top. Red is spilling over.
So you've maximized input without distortion.
That is correct. And all right, but there are guitar players in the world. Guitar players also want to record. Let's say I have an acoustic guitar that I record with a microphone, and I do the same thing. Strum, 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 strum. It's green. Turn up the gain knob. Strum, 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 strum. Green, 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 green. Turn up the gain. Strum, strum, strum. Yellow, yellow, yellow. Oh, okay. Now I need to be really careful. Turn up the gain. Strum, strum, strum. Still yellow, yellow, yellow. Strum, strum, strum. Red, red, red. Oh, it's too much. So I turn the gain knob back a little bit. Strum, strum, strum. Yellow, yellow, yellow. Soft strum, green. Louder strum, the loudest I can. Yellow, yellow. I'm safe. Play it really hard. I get red. Oh, I need to turn it back a little bit. And that's what you do with every single instrument that you're going to, whether it's the flute player. So a flute player, that means the gain is probably going to go a lot more than the vocalist to get to the green, yellow, yellow, red, red flute.
Yeah, if you were to plug in the guitar player into the flute player's channel, it would just be...
Right, it would blow it out. So that means that each instrument you record is going to have a different gain setting on your audio interface. Now, that's also true of microphones. Some microphones are super sensitive. Some microphones are like anvils, and it depends on the type of recording you're doing. Cool?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so this very first step of your gain staging is I'm maximizing what's going into the computer / DAW. And what that means is on your DAW, like well, you say you're playing it in GarageBand, usually there's some kind of meter in your DAW, and the meter should be, if your fader is at 0, which is called unity gain, which we'll talk about in a second, that your meter should probably echo what's happening on your audio interface. It's green or yellow or red. You know, some, and again, different DAWs have different colors for their metering. So, but the main thing is, if your audio channel, I'm going to show you mine here for a second. All right, so here's my DAW with a session open, and let me switch my window here, workspaces, mix. All right, so here's all of my instruments, and I'm gonna zoom in here, so don't feel like you have to put on your glasses just yet. All right, so all right, so here's all of my faders, and what is it? Shift 8. Nope. Oh, where's my zoom? Sorry, it's not zooming. There we go. Oh.
Oh.
There we go. Sorry. All right. So, if I zoom in here, where's my thing? All right. So, this orange track here. All right. Can you see some numbers along this track? It says that's not a 00. That's actually, it should be an infinity sign.
Like Unity?
Unity, yep. Then it says 50, 40, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, and then 0. And then up here it says 6. Do you guys see that? Can you see those numbers?
Yes.
Now the number we're concerned with is this 0. And technically anything below the 0 is
Yes.
That's actually should be -5. That's -10. That's -15, -20, 30, etc. And this is actually +6. And these are decibels, but we're not concerned about that yet. What we want is when I've recorded, I want my fader to be at that 0, which I just did. There we go. So can you see how my fader is right on that Z? Wait, did I pick the wrong one?
No, I think that's right.
Oh yeah, that's the right one. So my fader is 0. So when I play this track back, let's see. I need to find. Here's this track. Actually, I'm going to choose the bass line because it might be easier to see the bass. Where's my bass?
It's all about the bass.
All about the bass. Where are you, bass? All right, there. So here's my bass track, and I'm going to solo that. All right, can you guys hear the bass? Now, ironically, I cannot hear the bass, and I don't know why. But if you look, can you see on my channel? I have mine set up. That's the green. So that means when I recorded this, my channel was at 0, and no, this is perfectly right in that where I want it to be. If I raise that, sorry, if I raise it, it's going to go. Or well, wait, I'm sorry. I can force it.
I can hear it starting to distort.
Yeah, could you guys hear it distorting? So that means when we recorded the bass, we recorded it at that great at its maximum level without distortion, which is basically following that green line, green, yellow, 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 red. Turn it back a little bit. Any questions about that?
No questions.
All right, cool. All right. So let me switch this workspace really quick here. All right. So what we're looking at is a recording of a song I produced. The red tracks, for our intents and purposes, the red are all different drum parts. The brown is bass. The purple are vocals. And orange are different guitars and stuff. So let's let me pull up this mixer. And I'm just gonna play I don't know, the chorus of this song and see if you guys can hear it. And it's weird because I literally can't hear this. Let's talk about, now that you have tracks, what do you do? And this next thing I'm going to show you is what I wish I would have learned first when I was learning how to mix. I wish someone had shown me this next thing. This changed everything. All right, let's switch back. I have All right, here we're going back to, here's my mixer. Here's all these, all these different instruments in my track. I'm gonna hide a bunch of stuff to make it a little easier to see. We'll get rid of the effects channel. That. Let's see. Let's put all the electric guitars up there. Okay. Now you can see these fade again. I know it's. Don't worry about being up close just yet, but you guys can see all of the, like, some of them are higher, some of them are lower. Like this one's super low. There's actually nothing on these, so actually I'll hide these. You can see them. We'll hide these. And then let's put my drums in there. All right, so scroll over here. And so I guess what I'm saying is, you guys, you can see how some channels are higher and some channels are lower in volume, right?
Yes.
All right. So now the problem is, do you remember at the beginning I said, all right, so we will only record. I'm gonna get rid of everything except for the drums. All right, so here are my drum tracks, and all right, let's get rid of everything. Get rid of all my vocals, and I only have a track that has drum and vocals. Now remember, if I turn, let's see, I'm not using these, so I get rid of those. How do I start? So on every DAW, and sometimes you have to add this, but let me get my zoom tool here. You have this element. There's an additional gain on every track, and this is called a pre-gain.
And to what does it precede?
And what it does is, before I do my mix, remember our flute player, vocalist, we have the drums, the guitar player. This pre-gain is a finer adjustment because you're originally depending on green. If you're lucky, you have some DAWs have like 3 green lights, a yellow light, and then a red light. And so you've kind of done this relative mix, or I'm sorry, relative loudness of all our instruments into your recording. What the pre-gain does is it's a fine tuning thing. And this gets back to Chad's question about decibels and where do I want to put my things in my DAW. All right, so let me see if I can make my vocal really big. So, okay, can you guys see this purple track? And I'm going to enlarge it so you can see it. All right, so I'm going to solo the vocal, and let's find a part. P.
It's all about the vocals.
It's all about the vocals. All right. So I'm going to turn off all my inserts. All right. So what you're going to hear is the raw vocal track, and I've taken my. I'm trying to get my zoom. There it is. Okay, that's the zoom I wanted. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm gonna put my fader at. There's that 0. Can you see that? Okay. Now, again, different DAWs are going to have different meters. So when I play it,
Has it been a
So can you see this meter? It's bouncing up.
Since then I can't stop thinking of you.
Can you hear that, Shane?
I can't hear it.
I don't know if you can remember.
But we're just looking at the meter right now. So can you see these numbers? It says 12, 16, 24, and this particular vocal track is not getting up into the green. Can you see that? Alright, so it should start. Here's a louder part that's going to go into the green. Then it fades back down. Alright. And this goes back to Chad's question about decibels. So on your meters, there is these numbers, and these numbers are different than these numbers on the fader. It says 0, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, etc. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go through all of my tracks, and I want, now that I have recorded them at all of their maximum levels, I'm going to adjust them all to they're all hitting this minus 12 decibel meter using the pre-gain. And what this is going to do is this is going to make sure that all of the flute player, the drummer, the guitar player, the vocalist, that when they go in the output of my computer, they're all relatively the same. Because remember, the flute is going to be softer, and so I can do that using my meters, because our ears play tricks on us. I'm going to bring everything. I'm either going to turn things down or bring things up to this minus 12. All right, so I'm going to hit play. All right, so I'm going. Let's see. I'm just going to have you trust me on this.
We're getting an echo, by the way.
I'm sorry about that. You're getting. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's like a slap. It might be something's bleeding.
Are you still getting an echo?
Yeah.
Let me try this.
It's a sweet sounding vocal, though.
What's that?
It's a sweet sounding vocal.
Oh, it's a good vocal. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's. I'm going to turn off my main output. All right. So now you're not going to hear you. I don't think you'll hear anything, but you'll see the meter.
Since then I can't stop.
So is it quiet now for you guys?
I think it's about the same. No, it's a little quieter.
Now is it quiet?
Yeah, it's off.
Okay, all right. But you guys can see the meter though, right?
Yes.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that gain and I'm going to bring that. I'm turning that gain up. Do you see? And I want it kind of kissing that 12 decibels. So right now it's too much. I'm going to bring it down. All right. Do you see how it's kind of kissing that green?
Yep.
All right. Let's do the same thing with it. Here's a guitar part. All right. So I go to the guitar. All right. So as this guitar, oh, sorry, hold on. All right, so notice this guitar was actually recorded at a louder level than the vocal.
Yeah, it's just into yellow, right?
It's just into the yellow. All right. So I'm going to go take that pre-gain and I'm going to bring that down just to where it's kissing that 12. You see that?
Yep.
All right. All right. let's do. All right, our big one is our kick drum. Second, we get to find a spot where there's a kick drum. Kick. So I'm gonna add. All right, so notice the kick drum, when the kick drum was recorded, because we did multiple tracks at different studios, the kick drum was actually recorded at a much lower volume than the guitar track. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to take the gain and I'm actually going to bring it up a little bit to where it's just, again, it's kissing that minus 12 decibel thing. And so what I'm looking for is, I want my fader on this 0 mark, which is called unity gain, and I want each one of my tracks to be at this minus 12 decibels. Is that too technical? Is that making sense for everybody?
Well, yes, to me. And anyone have any questions?
Because what happens, if I don't adjust this gain, this pre-gain, because I did, get rid of this.
You're basically preparing the tracks to mix.
Yes, because in this particular track, we recorded this at 3 different studios. The drums were recorded at one studio, the vocals were recorded at my studio, and the guitar player he recorded at his studio. So each one of remember their green lights, their green, yellow, red? Each one of those studios was a little bit different. So each one of their almost a yellow marking is actually slightly different. So this allows everything in my mixer to be the same across the board, level-wise.
Mm-hmm. You've leveled the playing field.
Yes. Now, why am I using that number 12?
So you can go plus or minus in the mix as you need to.
Yes, because this 12 is a safe zone. Okay? All right, so let's go back to our final mix and we'll use my glass of water. All right, so this is, every time you add another instrument in, what happens to the glass? It starts filling up, right? Filling up. So here's just the vocal. Here's the drums. Now I'm adding guitars. Now I'm adding flute. Now I'm adding bagpipes. Now I'm adding kettle drum. Now I'm adding Greg Constantino. Pretty soon even though all of the instruments are singing at the same volume, because there's so many things singing at the same volume, it becomes much louder, right? Like if you go see a choir concert, all of those vocalists are singing at the same volume. If you have one vocalist singing at one volume, it's softer than 2 vocalists singing at the same volume. Versus 3 vocalists. Now you have 12 people singing at the same volume, and what happens? It sounds loud to our ears. Mm-hmm. So that means the final output is going to distort. So what we're doing by starting at 12, and I don't know if you can see there's a 0 up here, I have all of this room in my final output to add more and more and more instruments into the mix without distorting.
Right.
Is everyone with me?
Yes, I think so. Thumbs up all around.
Thumbs up, all right. All right, so let me get rid of that. So when I do, all right, so now we have everything evened out. We've gone through all of the instruments, and we have added pre-gain so that they're all hitting that 12 dB mark on our mixer. So actually, when I play back the guitar, the vocal, and the drums, they should all, on playback, they should all be hitting this, roughly the same thing. Okay, there it is. All right. So my volume is at my fader is at 0. And okay, so this one's super loud. So I adjust the pre-gain until you guys can still see that fader. I'm going to turn it down until it's just kissing
-12.
-12. Should come back up here. Okay. So now if I hopefully there's a vocal in that. Oh yeah. All right. So there's a vocal. So if I play all 3 of these back. That one. All right. So all right. So look at. We have the vocal here. So, sorry. All right, so we have the purple track, the vocal. We have the orange track, the guitar. And then we have the drum track, which is the kick track, which is the red. All right, so if I play them back. I'm sorry. The vocals. I'm sorry. I have to.
Yeah, you turned your mains off, right?
Yeah. Well, we're and actually we're not listening. We're just
watching.
Just watching the meters for right now. All right, where's the guitar?
And with the meters, they all appear to be fairly balanced.
Yes, correct. So yeah, so can you see how they're all kind of at this? They're all kind of at the same level here in the mixer.
Yeah.
Does that now?
So
now if I play,
you have balanced them with your pre-gain.
With the pre-gain. Okay.
Yeah.
So now that everything is at this unity gain inside your DAW, what I've done is I've maximized the sound of all of my instruments, and I've put them at a level with which now I can mix them to where they will sound good or not.
Right.
So and this is and the next part is just a taste thing. So I'm going to pull up that bass line here. Here's my bass. All right, so kick. I'm going to hide all these other things. All right, so we have a guitar, bass, and actually let me do the pre-gain to the bass. I haven't done that yet. Actually, I should. I need a part with the bass. Yeah, actually, I've already done it with the bass.
Beautiful.
Now let's see. Now we should only be hearing these parts. Can you guys hear all 4 of those?
No.
Oh, it's because I'm an idiot. Turn down the main volume. All right. All right. Can you hear all 4 parts?
Nope.
Nope.
Sure looks good though.
It sure looks good, Shane. What the heck? I turned something off. It was my group track.
The best noise reduction I ever heard.
I did something in my drums.
Girl who was a friend to me. Now
Now are you guys hearing
take
it?
that as a sign to leave the past behind.
Yes.
Yes. Magnificent.
Now, are you only hearing the guitar, bass, kick drum, and the vocal? Or are you hearing
To a girl who was a friend to me.
Yes, could hear it, and I could hear guitar was coming in the left side.
Yep.
Bass was heavy on the right side.
Yep. Okay. So now that I have all those things, but that's a terrible mix. What you just heard is everything at the same volume.
Yeah, it's kind of cacophonous. Yeah.
It's cacophony. So typically the first thing you start with in a mix is your kick drum. So now you go through your mix and you turn everything down. All right. So now I've turned everything down, and the first thing I will bring up is my kick. All right, and let's see. Let's play that.
Just like at sound check.
Yeah, just like a sound check. All right. So there's my kick. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my bass guitar. Now notice what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bass guitar at the same level as the drums, and it's actually not going to sound, even though the volume level, again, I've maximized the volume level so they're all equal, but it's not going to sound natural. Well, actually, I picked the part where there's not a lot of bass. So in this particular mix, I'm going to bring the bass down just a smidge. Just to kind of where. And Darcy, you tell me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have Darcy. I'm going to turn up the bass, and Darcy, you tell me to stop when you think it sounds good. Okay?
Okay. Right there.
Right there.
Maybe a little bit more.
A little bit more? Okay,
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I need to hear a little bit more of the mix myself, but I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. We'll just say rough. And so notice that on our faders, my kick drum is at unity gain because we're going to measure everything else against the kick drum.
Chad probably likes that.
Be measured. I'm sorry?
I said Chad probably likes that.
Yeah, Chad's got a big grin on his face. Because usually it's usually the drum sounds that get muddy and are muffled. So we have a clear, and then the bass usually, not all the time, but usually sits just underneath the drums. And now let's bring up the vocals. Sorry.
Crank the vocals.
The vocals. And Darcy again. And again, we're doing. I don't recommend mixing over Zoom.
No.
But yeah, Darcy, you tell me when the vocals starts to sound good against the drum and the bass.
Okay.
Who was a friend to me? Now I'll take that
Good.
as a sign to leave the past behind. Yes.
Can you all hear that?
You can't hear it? Oh, I can hear it. You guys
Greg,
can't.
Can you hear it?
I can hear it on my end.
Tony, it might be something.
Maybe Tony, you didn't click on the link. Did you? Oh, okay. Did you, when you clicked on the link, did you select listen now? Oh. Okay, bummer in the link. You'll get a refund.
Girl who was a friend to me. Now I'll take that as a sign.
Okay, so now notice in the mix. Remember how we started everything
Level.
sonically at the same level, right? But now we're going with what sounds good. And just to point out, notice how, so here we started with the kick, and then the bass. Notice the bass is a little lower, and then notice that the vocal is actually, it's actually a little lower than the kick.
Yeah.
But that's what sounds good to your ears.
Mm-hmm. And it's also where it sits in the EQ, right? So sonically, how we hear it, how we translate it. Exactly.
Because higher pitch things, they sound louder, even though their volume is like we saw by the meters that the kick drum and the vocals, their volumes were the same, right? But because the voice is a higher pitch instrument, to our ears it sounds louder.
Right.
Which I know it probably doesn't make any sense, but it's acoustic psychology. All right, so now here's the poor little guitar part way down here at the bottom, and let's bring that up to where that sounds good. So the same thing, Darcy. I'm relying on your ears.
All right.
To leave the past behind. Yes. But now you've moved along, I see, to a girl who was a friend to me. Now I'll take that as a sign to leave the past behind. Yes.
Darcy, is the guitar playing?
I don't think I could hear it.
Electric guitar.
Was it like an arpeggio?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, as I started listening for the guitar, I thought maybe the vocal was too hot. Right? So...
Yeah. Well, and so here, Darcy brings up a good point. Which is the most important instrument in the... All right, so now that we have the drum and the kick of the drums, now that we have those are our kind of our reference level. Which is more important, the vocal or the guitar?
The vocal.
Right. So every time you add another instrument, you're going to decide in the order of things which is more important. And the more important instruments are going to be up higher, and the least important instruments are going to be down lower, right? And we can see that visually here. Here's the kick drum, the bass is here, the vocals here, and then the guitar is just kind of sitting just underneath the vocal.
Right.
And so, and again, depending on how many instruments you have, loops, pads, piano. Now, looking at my mixer, I have a visual, because we made everything at a unity gain level. I can see visually where everything is in my mix. Mm-hmm. So what if hey, I think I want the guitar to be a little louder. Okay. I know that visually this is probably going to be overpowering the vocal, right? Mm-hmm. So but maybe it's a solo part, and I need it to be
right
in par with the vocal. So maybe during the solo section, I bring the volume up of the guitar to here, but then when it gets to the next chorus, I can pull it down again. But now because I've done everything at unity gain, I have a visual reference.
Mm-hmm. Okay, listen, Chad asked a question, assuming you already have EQ done on these, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've already EQ'd each track, and so he's saying, so these low frequencies are fighting each other?
Okay, all right, excellent. All right, so now the two big add to the mix things are EQ and compression. And let me show you a couple basic EQ techniques to make your mix just automatically sound better. All right, so I'm going to pull up this same thing. I'm going to pull up a visual EQ of each one of those parts. All right, so let's here's my bass. A little smaller. Here is I'm sorry, that's my kick drum. Here is my bass. Make that a little small. Now ignore these curves. Ignore these curves that are on here. Let's see, where's my guitar?
Just look at the dots.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, here's an even better thing to do. Let's add. All right, so I'm gonna turn off all the inserts. All right, so the first thing, well, and actually, so in a basic mix, what have we done? We've made sure that we've maximized the amount of level in our recording by going up to the red light and turning it back. In the mixer, using pre-gain, we've brought everything up to a unity level. Once all the instruments are at a unity level, we pull them all down. We start with the kick first, if you have a kick. We do the bass second, then we do the vocals third, and then we do everything else.
Right.
And that actually will give you a pretty good. That will give you a pretty good mix if you didn't do anything else, and if your microphones are good, and if you're in a quiet environment and kind of all that stuff.
Sure.
So let's say that is congratulations, you have all just graduated from Basic Mixing 101. How does that make you feel? Makes you feel good. Okay.
Yeah, we have a good starting point. We have the foundation of the rhythm section, which gives the mix something to stand on.
Yeah, and you do an order. What's the order of importance of my instruments? The acoustic guitar, the piano, the whatever. As long as it doesn't overpower the vocals, the bass, and the kick, you're good.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So congratulations, you've graduated. Now we're in mixing 102.
Wow.
And that is we're actually going to go back to we're going to do some more preparatory stuff. So the first preparatory thing we did was that pre-gain. We're going to do another preparatory thing, and that is we're going to add we're going to divide our mix up into two types of instruments: treble instruments and bass instruments. Now, typically in a mix, there's only there's the kick is your only bass instrument, and your bass guitar is your only bass instrument. Now, if you have a drum loop, you're not going to do this to a drum loop. You will do this to a bass. Now, let's, for instance, I'm gonna add an EQ here to my so it's on my other screen. All right. I'm gonna. Here is an EQ of my vocal track. Now, can you see all the bouncing? Actually, I'm going to mute us again, and we're only going to look. Now, I will say this. I'm showing you meters, and I'm showing you visual representation. Always follow your ear. If your ear does something, if your ear is in conflict with what the meter is saying, especially in this phase, go with your ears, not the meter.
Mm-hmm. Quick question. How loud do you listen when you're mixing?
So I typically don't. I don't listen that loud.
I listen rather quiet myself.
Yeah, I listen at a very comfortable level because I don't want my ears to get fatigued.
Another random question here from Chad. He wants to know if there's any advantage to mixing in mono versus stereo.
Yes, that is mix 201.
Okay. Gotcha.
The quick answer to that is when
it's going to have a lot to do with placement of your instruments in the
Yes.
track. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So in the quick answer is all right. In 103, mixing 103. Once you have all your instruments, you can now adjust instruments in the left and right side. So the vocals in the middle. I want the guitar a little bit off to the side. And maybe I have the piano parts.
maybe there's two guitars, so there's one on either side.
Yeah, so so you have two guitars on either side, rather than just everything. Right now, my mix, everything's right in the middle, and that's not how we hear things. So I put two guitars here, and then I have the flute player. I put the flute player here in the stereo mix. Oh, bagpipes. Okay, let's put the bagpipes here, and then I have the auto harp. What's that called? The mouth harp.
Juice harp. Yeah.
So I put that a little bit further. So now when I listen, everything is not masked in the middle. Everything is spread out in a nice, beautiful stereo spread. When you listen to Ozzy Osbourne's "Crazy Train," you get that that laugh.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, that pans to the left or right. Okay, so what if I hit the mono button, everything goes back to the middle.
Kind of squashes everything.
Yeah, and instruments of the same frequency. Remember, we had two guitars. Now that they're in the middle, they're going to mask each other
And perhaps make things muddy.
and make things muddy. And so the secret to great mono mixes is using your EQ to bring out different frequencies of different instruments. But let's lead up to that.
That's another webinar.
That's another webinar. Okay, so now here's my vocals. Oh, and I can make this huge. This huge. All right, so. All right. Can you see the frequencies of this vocal?
Yep.
Okay. Notice. Oh, I can't. You know what? I can't use an arrow, and I can't use my arrow and the this at the same time. All right. So. All right. Can you see this big lump at the bottom? I say at the bottom. What an EQ does, an EQ represents low to high frequencies. Everything on the left is a low frequency. Everything on the right is a higher frequency. So notice how this lead vocal is kind of dwelling here.
What is that? Like 200, 250?
Yeah. So the frequency here, it's kind of dropping off, and that's about 166.
Yeah, so everything after like 40 hertz, you're not really hearing anyways, right?
Yeah. Now, can you see this little valley to the left?
Which one? This
So you
one?
have these. If I move them, all right. So you have. So here's our little mountain, and then off here to the left. Here, let me see if I get it to do it again. There you go. All right. Can you see, especially this area right here,
Where it drops off?
where it drops off? That is all mud. That is all frequencies, all the important frequencies of the vocal are here on this first peak. Everything below that, some of it could be microphone hum, some of it could be a garbage truck that drives by in front of your house. And so what happens is the first thing you can do is get rid of these low frequencies. And so every EQ has what's called a high pass filter, which means it's only going to allow high frequencies through. So I conveniently have one right here.
And you can roll it off from there.
Yeah. All right, so can you see this curve? What I've done is I've created this frequency channel that only cuts off the bass. Remember, I don't need anything below that. In fact, let's see. Let's do this. I'm going to move this off to the side. All right. So, all right, we're only going to listen to the vocals for a second. All right, can you guys just hear the vocals right now?
Yeah.
Right. So watch what happens is I'm going to move this, and up here it should sound now it should sound like nasally. Yes.
Yep.
It sounds terrible, right? Doesn't sound like a vocal. All right.
Thin.
As I move this down, keep moving it down. You're going to hear more of the vocal, and it's going to sound much more natural.
But now you've moved
And there
gets
a point in the EQ where, notice, like if I move it up here, it has a huge effect. But if I move it down here, there's no effect.
I see to a girl who was a friend to me. Now I'll take that as a
because this is all
to leave the past
frequencies
behind.
that's not important for the vocal. If I move it around up here, you should hear it should sound like wah wah or something. So what I do is I find the frequency that I want to move this up as close as I can
Now I'll take that as a sign
to where it starts having an
to leave
effect
the
on the
past
vocal,
behind.
and then I move it back just a little bit.
But
now I've
you've
retained
moved along, I see,
all the
to a
important
girl
part
who
of
was
the
a friend
vocal
to me.
frequencies,
Now I'll take
and I've gotten
that
rid
as
of
a
all
sign
the
to
mud.
leave the
I've gotten
past
rid.
behind.
Well, I'm sorry. Right now it's not. Right now it's not mud because we're only listening to one instrument. But what happens? I add my second vocal, and that adds to that low end. I add my third instrument, it adds to that low end. Add my fourth, and pretty soon all of those frequencies build up, and you start having this effect.
Yeah, it's just like your water glass for your gain. It's the same thing with your EQ.
Yep, exactly. And so what I'm doing is I'm eliminating all those low frequencies in the instruments that don't need those low frequencies to sound good. And so when I play, so I do this to every single. All right, so let's look at our guitar. All right, so here's our guitar, and let's see. I'm gonna add an EQ here. All right, here's my guitar. Let me get rid of this real quick. Sorry, delete. All right, and I'm going to make this really big. And I want to delete this. Delete. Okay, here is my guitar. All right, so notice the guitar doesn't take as much space. Can you see its peak is, you kind of lose everything here in the highs. Let's see where it builds up to. Okay, and its low fundamental is about right here, which is, let's see what this is, 108. So remember the vocal was kind of up here, and the guitar is down here.
So a little more sub-low EQ.
Yeah. So because well, first of all, it was a female voice, which is a little higher pitched, and this guitar is kind of a warm guitar sound. All right. So what I would do is I would do the exact same thing. I'll have guitar play. All right. So if I do this to the guitar, whoops. All right. If I do this to the guitar is probably now sounding thin and terrible.
Yep.
Okay. Wait for it to. So I start down here. It doesn't need any of those low frequencies. I bring this up to where it starts having an effect. And Darcy, you'll have to tell me.
You were good right there. It gets boxy sounding if you take it too low.
Yeah. And so what I'll do is I will do that on all of my instruments. Now watch what happens. What that does is that leaves room for my bass. All right, here is my bass. Let's add an EQ. Oh wait, no, I don't.
The bass gets its own seat.
Yeah, my bass. Pro EQ. All right, let's get rid of that. Delete. Okay. All right, so let's look at what's happening in the bass frequencies. All right, can you see where the slope of the bass is? The slope of the bass is way down here. All right, so let's do that same trick. We're going to do a high. Oh, all right. So if I did this trick to the bass, all right.
Now
how does the bass?
Sounds like a Rickenbacker now.
Yeah, it sounds terrible, right? All right, so what I want to do on a bass is I don't need all the high frequencies, so I actually I can do the opposite on the bass and do what's called a low pass filter. You can see that low pass right here, and I can cut off the high frequencies of the bass. And again, till it does,
That's pretty good there.
Pretty good there. All right, and then get rid of this. And so I've left all of that room at the bottom for the bass. So now the bass is, because we got rid of all of that in the guitar and the vocal and all the other instruments, now the bass is really going to stand out because that's where all the important bass frequencies are.
And it's not going to compete with mid-range instruments and etc.
Yep. And then let's do the same thing to the kick drum. Oops. So kick drum. All right. Notice the kick drum.
We don't hear it.
Oh, you don't hear the kick drum. Why? I don't know why. Oh, kick drum is there.
There you go.
All right. Okay, notice on the kick drum, notice how the kick drum is taking up all of the bottom end.
Yeah, and it's spiking upstairs too.
Yeah, so and in fact, if you've ever seen a kick drum, have you seen that little pedal that they step on and that beater hits the kick drum?
Yes.
That beater is actually, that sound of the beater is up here. Can you see this?
Yeah, it gives it the attack.
Gives it the attack. Fine. So notice if I do a high frequency, I can get rid of that attack if I want and keep the bass. Or if I want that attack, I can bring the attack in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So no attack.
So the trick is to find an EQ that doesn't compete too much with guitar and vocals and the bass, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so now, so here's a problem, and this goes back to Chad's original question about so now I have two instruments in the bass, right? I have the bass and I have the kick drum that are both competing for that same space. All right, so let me that's the lead vocal. Let me get back to the kick. Where's my bass? side by side.
This is the stock market.
All right, so on the left, I have the kick drum, and on the right, I have my bass guitar. All right, and actually, I'm going to turn off the sound. So again, so we're only listening to the frequencies. Or I'm sorry, so you're only visualizing it. Where'd I lost my DAW. Because I'm a genius. Let's turn down the stereo out. Okay. Okay, so notice, let's look at where these peaks are. This says 70 hertz. 70, 80 right here. Does that make sense? Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. 82 hertz. So that means the best part of the kick drum is right here in 82. Whereas on the bass, it's 70, 129, kind of at this range up here.
Right.
So let's find what this peak is right here.
398.
So, and actually, I want to look at this kind of this fundamental of the kick. So 70, kind of this peak here. Yeah. So the fundamental of the bass is kind of right here at 70. So what I will do in my EQs is I will find 70 on here. 70. And I'm going to lower it just a smidge in the kick drum, and then whereas our fundamental for our kick drum is at kind of this dip right in here, so we'll say that is 71, 72. So I will in the bass, I'm going to lower it at 72. It's like 73 or 74. So now there's kind of room for both of them.
Yeah, so you just notch out.
Because if going back, if we went to mono, now we would still hear the kick. Now they in mono they would be masking each other at that frequency, but now we've lowered one of the frequencies of the bass, and we've lowered one of the frequencies of, or we're lowering different frequencies, so you should be able to hear the bass and the kick drum at the same time, because we're hearing different frequencies.
Yep.
So that's what I wanted to get to for
So
mono.
even though they live in the same neighborhood, we're getting a little separation.
So think of it this way. All right. And this is I'm not going to demonstrate this. This is more of an overall concept. All right. So think of, let's say that you are doing a guitar vocal. And specifically, let's say you're doing a guitar vocal with a baritone voice.
Ooh.
And so you have a nice strummy guitar and you have a baritone singer. Notice that the baritone singer is in the same range as the baritone guitar. Kind of that low mid range.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, they're going to be competing.
They're going to be competing. So which is the most important element? Which is the most important instrument in the mix?
Vocals.
Vocals, yeah. Did Chad? I think Chad just said drums.
I have evolved over the years.
Chad
I was
is
going to say cowbell.
cowbell. Right.
More
All right,
cowbell!
So let's say, let's pull up the EQ for the vocal. All right, now we've already notched out all the mud in the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Right, and 1 second. Let's get the lead.
Using the high pass filter.
Using the high pass filter. All right, let's put. All right, so here's our guitar. Now this isn't. We're listening to a singer right here, so it's not going to be complete. All right, so if I play these two. I'm going to, solo there's a new bass and kick. And I want that. Okay. So this side, this is our guitar. And this is our vocal. Now the vocals, especially the lead vocal, you don't want, assuming that it's recorded just lovely. All right, so what I want to do is I play these back. Okay, notice that this guitar part is sitting in the same area as all the
vocal
part. So what I can do to make the vocal part stand out a little bit more is I'll go to that area where the vocal sounds good. And I'll pull just a little bit out of the guitar part, just a smidge. Which now it's not enough to make the guitar sound bad, but you're taking out just enough for the vocal for more of the vocal to get through in your mix.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and sometimes it's the best option to notch out your EQ, right? Because if you start messing with volumes, if you start maybe moving the fader up and down because you think you can't hear it, this is probably the best remedy.
Yeah. Now remember when I said that this is 102, mixing
yes.
102. So you want to also check. This is also going to affect your main faders. So you always have to keep track, because if I'm removing part of a guitar, that's going to make the guitar a little softer. So that means I might have to go back to my mix.
And boost or attenuate as needed.
And bring the guitar up a little bit more. So again, you're playing this balancing act, and the rule is when you take away something from an instrument, it's going to get softer. When you add something, it's going to get a little louder. So right. we had set our overall levels here.
Nice happy face.
This happy face. Like with no EQ, no nothing, this is what sounds good. But remember, I took a little bit out of that guitar, so it depends. I might have to boost the guitar just a smidge to bring it up to that level where it sounds good in the mix.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Does that make sense to everybody? Is this helpful?
Yeah, everyone's happy. I mean, Shane, you could probably come on here every week, and and it would take us a while to fully digest what you've presented here today. But I think a lot of the questions were answered, and I mean, we're in the world of creating music and making music in our DAWs, right? So, I mean, I for one, I could keep going, right? Like, there's so much to learn.
Yep.
Right, and it's always indicative of what kind of mix you're creating. What elements are going into that mix, different kind of instruments, voice types, etc. So it's And with the digital world today, what you've demonstrated in in an hour or so, back in the analog days where I came from, would take days to create these sounds, right?
Yep.
So it's pretty amazing. But
So, yes.
does anyone have any questions?
I'm reserving the rest of my questions for mixing 901.
Well, eventually we'll come back and we'll talk about, I'm sure you've all heard about compressors and compression.
Yeah.
There's a discussion on that, and there's additive. Right now we've done subtractive EQ, where we've gotten rid of things, and there's what's called additive EQ, which we haven't, and we haven't even talked about effects. What effect does adding a reverb to a track do?
And
so
where in the chain?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what we'll do is I've contrived with Darcy to come back, and maybe in a couple 8 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever we decide, and we'll just keep going through these processes. The world needs to hear your music. And seriously, with the basic steps I showed you today, you can actually get to a fantastic mix. You really, because you've cleaned up all the mud, and everything is relative, and everything's at a relatively good, non-distorted level. And I'll close this by a tangent. You've all heard of mastering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all right, so I've just done my mix, and remember, my glass is half right. If I've done everything right, I've made sure that all the instruments are there without distortion, right? And so depending on what the cumulative amount of all the instruments, might be here, it might be here, it might, again, it depends on how soft, it depends on the genre. But ideally, using this method, we've left room at the top, and that room at the top is what the mastering engineers do.
Mm-hmm.
They take that whole mix, and they bring it all the way to the threshold of no distortion to make it sound good, to give it body and expression.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what mastering.
And the sum total of your mix is what they get to work with.
Yeah, they take everything, and they take this glass, and then they use a process of wizardry and magic and they'll correct things. They can correct things in an overall mix. Like, oh hey, maybe they took out too much in the bass, so he can add a little bit of bass back into the mix to give it more thump. Or hey, I need the vocals to have a little more sizzle, so they can add a little high end. They can do these really kind of broad strokes, EQing and compression, to really get the maximum. So that's what mixing is. But would love to come back and do mixing 103. What we did is we did 101 definitely, and we got just scratched the surface of 102. So
Nice.
If I could do a shameless plug, at Interlochen School of Music, I have a recording and mixing, or recording and producing for beginners. It's a 4-week course at Interlochen School of Music online. If you're more interested in learning, again, these basics, and I have 3 songwriting courses, and hopefully Darcy will invite me back to talk about songwriting.
Well, I will, and I also want to give this shameless plug too. This is Shane's. This was your first book, right, with Berklee Press?
My first book. Yep.
And where can they get this book?
That is at any fine online bookstore. I don't know. It's in a lot of. It's depending on how.
Is it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yeah, that's the best place.
Yeah. I know I've got, and I'm not inexperienced in the ways of the studio, but this book was very helpful for me. It's a good reference to go back and just right. Try to keep it as simple as possible, especially at the beginning, because you can muddy up a mix so fast.
Yeah. Well, that was the idea. When I wrote the book, I was actually the second author of this. They had another engineer writing this book, and it was so boring and so technical and so.
Right.
But they brought me on as color commentary. And then the original author got into a dispute with Berklee Press, and so they asked if I would do it, and I said yes, but I don't want to do it like that guy. I don't want to address it to other rocket scientists. I want to show people what I wish I would have known when I was first learning how to mix and how to set up a DAW, how to set up a microphone, how to set up a room. We can't afford to go to Abbey Road Studio, so how do I make my living room sound good when I record? And so it includes, or how to use loops. So there's some stuff with MIDI in there. So
right. You were just at Abbey Road, weren't you?
Yeah, I got a chance to record in Abbey Road a few months ago. It was the coolest thing. So there's the street, the Abbey Road street that everybody takes their picture of to walk across, and which of course we did. And then there's a big white wall in front of Abbey Road that everybody graffitis, leaves their name and stuff. And then there's this big wrought iron gate that you walk through to go up to Abbey Road, and there's a main entrance. And I, when they buzzed me in to Abbey Road, you should have seen the crowd. Like, what? Like, who's that guy? And luckily nobody said, oh, he's not anybody. But like people were taking, all the this could be somebody important walking up to the front.
You never know, right?
So apparently they'll just let anybody record at Abbey Road.
I don't know about that.
No, it was super fun, a great experience, and I recorded on a $25,000 mic.
Oh, nice.
It was just laying around. It wasn't even like, hey, they didn't bring it in like on a little soft velvet pillow.
Here's one. Let's take the dust off it.
Like,
Man, I have an $800 microphone that I even have in a nice case here.
yeah. Yeah, this one was. I mean, it was literally on a table. A U67, which is already a very valuable mic. A serial. What was it? Serial number? It was like 65.
Oh my gosh.
There's like tens of thousands of these mics made. It was cool. Anyway, thank you for wasting a perfectly good hour and a half of your time. And we give a big round of applause to Darcy and all the good things.
Geez, I am so grateful that you were able to share your time with us and your expertise, and I do look forward to more of this in the future. So I'm sure everyone will comment, takeaways from this, and there's probably going to be lots of questions. So if you're interested in the near future, I'd love to book that.
I'll tell you what, next time I come, I'll see if Interlochen will let me do a drawing for the class.
Oh.
Give away a free.
Nice. That'd be awesome. And Greg, so nice to see you.
Yep.
Good to see you, Darcy. It's been too long, man.
It sure has.
All right, everybody.
Has.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Cheers, everyone.
All right. All the best. Thank you, Shane, for all of this. Really appreciate it.
Bye now. Cheers.